So now I'm going to tell you about how do we restore function, proper function. We have to slow it down. Okay? You can only restore brain work by slowing it down. For sprinters, race walkers, one of the drills that's done is this, okay, with dumbbells. Why is that done? So in race walking, we want to keep that 90-degree angle, right? Well, here's the problem with Robbins. Robbins is going like this, right? So this is not helping her move, because what do we want? We want to improve her posterior. Even though her posterior is powerful, she could even be more powerful in the posterior chain if that she could bring this trap down and get this coming through straight. And when that comes through straight like that, if it's here versus here, she's swaying herself. When she goes back here, she's fighting that, which is sending that muscle outside. Now when she comes here, she's fighting that, sending that muscle outside. Her lumbar spine is turning more than it should. Okay, she's getting too much, and that's what we don't want to move the most, is the lumbar spine. Okay, in any sport, we want the rib cage moving, we want the pelvis moving. The lumbar spine moves with the pelvis, but when the pelvis that moves, and the pelvis either not in timing with the pelvis, then we're cranking on those low rigs. So Robin is in this position. She has a flared rib cage. She's really tight here. She's really long here. So she's doing this because it's hard in this position to do this because it's going to take her off balance. So she's actually using this to keep balance, but it's taking away from her speed. Okay, because she can't get the anterior chain to work. So as she pulls back here, she's rolling out, and that outside is taking more than this. So what she's doing is she's getting out here, and she's whipping around that in that position. Outside is getting it. She's not getting the drive from the inside. So if these are right, she's going to get that drive on the inside. When she goes to this, it's going to whip her around, and she's got all this. Looks beautiful muscle here. If we added muscle here, she would have wonderful legs, but there's nothing here, okay? And that's because that's what's going to drive her through, okay? It's related to this, the arm swing. So where does the arm swing? The lat attaches to the arm, and we want the lat to pull this down and in, okay? This is staying contracted. This rib cage, the spinal engine is restricted. It's not moving because it's stuck in what we call extension, okay? Which means the ribs in the back are really tight and they're open in the front. And so they're awkward there. So we need to get this down, and so she can get that great anterior push. Until she gets those arms, there's other things. I just want to say that I'm taking one exercise. So what's the important thing to do? So when, in this exercise, if she's using 5 pounds or 10 pounds, she's got this going on, and this is what she's doing, okay? So I'm going to drop the load, maybe to 2 pounders, okay? So because the brain will take the strongest and do what it's been doing because of what? Yep, it's because of she's got too much tension in her traps, and she's using her upper traps, and this joint is going this way and driving that way instead of that way. And so when she starts to drive this way, now we're going to get some spinal engine movement. Okay, she's getting nothing here. So she's driving it from the whole back chain. Right. Okay. So there's the overview, using her as an example in one sport, but that's for all sports, whether it's a pitcher and where is he on the mound, and when he's up in this position, is he in that position, or is he back? Is one hip out more? And how am I going to get that drive into this foot, into that arch, to drive him forward into that pitch? Okay, it's all the same thing. It's the mechanics and where the joints are in alignment. All right, we're going to put this down. Now, we're going to bring Robin up. So Robin, you're going to come up and you're going to stand. So what I'm going to do is look at her posture. Now, don't change a thing. So, from the ankle to the greater trochanter, right there, there is that position. I'm going to move it out a little bit. And there's her rib cage. Do we see that? Yeah. That is her static posture. It's also her dynamic posture. Okay? So that's what's working. So she is a big bow, an arrow bow, okay, where the string is too tight here in the posterior chain, okay, right there, but it can't spring forward, all right? So she's stuck in this position. Where is she supposed to be? So the peak athletic performance body should be the ankle and the greater trochanter line up, and the shoulder line up, and the ear, get back here. Not your feet. So see, she's having trouble standing straight, okay? And this is so tight, really super tight right here, especially this right side. That's why we've been working on the right side, okay? And long and weak. So we call that, there's a company in the Czech Republic called DNS that I've also taken a lot of courses from, and they call that open scissors. We call it, she's got part of what's called lower cross syndrome. You can turn around and watch this for a second. So we want the straight line to be, and this is us, we're not artists. She even got, you must have been in her brain because she's got extension in the rib cage. Because when this goes up, that ear, that shoulder should be here, the greater trochanter should be here, and the ankle should be there. That's the ideal neutral for sports, for movement, for anybody, no matter what. But she has, this is more condensed. This is crushed down here. This is, so this is called, DNS calls it open scissors. The scissors are open. This is where they've got to be. And in Postural Restoration Institute, they call this extension, okay, when the rib cage is like that, and flexion when the rib cage is like that. What we want is that. So what's happening is there's a lot of stress in this position on everything in the back. Where are all her problems coming from? In the back. Hamstring, glute, well, she's all, ankle, Achilles. She's also grabbing her wrist. So she's obviously got a overturn of her wrist being stuck in, probably. But anyway, that's the big thing. So what do we have to do? We have to lengthen this, tighten this, okay? And from this position, when you're in open scissors, okay, who is really short and tight? Hamstrings. Because the pelvic is going here, okay? It's like that. So we need to get this, and because she's got such powerful outside quads, she's also more here, okay? So I don't want to say that she's like the average open scissors. She's got this huge amount of that she's developed from pulling and whipping herself around on the outside of that leg, okay? Which anytime you're whipping yourself around and not going straight, you're deviating from propulsion, right? So she's zigzagging down the track. So she's adding miles to her 20K is maybe 21K, okay, with the zigzag effect. And when she's here, she can't get back far enough to get that posterior leg back far enough. So until that she gets a neutral, can that leg fly back and get more forward motion, more propulsion, more push. She's limited on her push from that. So here she is, tight hamstrings, glutes are on all the time, they don't shut off. So what's supposed to happen? As soon as I come through here, and as soon as I turn in, that baby's going to shut off to allow this to come around, and this one turns on. Hers is not shutting off. It's so used to, it's so used to, it just stays on because she's made it stay on. So it has. So what is efficiency? Efficiency, also the other part of efficiency is a muscle has to turn off to allow the opposite muscle to work. So if she's stuck here, that has to release to get her to come up here for the quad to be able to push and the groin to be able to push. But with this, it's kind of like not happening in this, okay? So what it should happen is as we get here, those turn on, she's in this as the pull. She gets here, the switch comes here. Right now, the lateral supports her here. That's when the lateral system comes in, especially right here. Okay, so we've got the posterior sling, the lateral system, the anterior sling. Okay, the transition is at stance leg. The stance leg. So when you get here, so we've got the glute turning on about right here, the outside hamstring just before landing. Those are all turning on just as she hits. And as she gets here, when the bones takes the load instead of the muscles, okay, then the energy transfers to the groin and the obliques and the quad, and she pushes. Now this is quad 2 pulling forward, so I don't want to confuse you. But there's got to be a turn off of muscles for the efficiency of the other muscle to turn on. If that's like that, this muscle can't turn on because this doesn't have a mechanical advantage. And this guy's pulling it back. It's like you've got 16 people on that tug of rope and 2 on this one, and these can't win because there's so much strength here. Now what is she doing? When you're standing and you're standing in good posture, the bones are taking the load. The muscles here aren't working, the muscles here aren't working, and everything's fine. Robin, that posterior chain's still working all day long. Okay, she's standing in, the hamstrings are on, the glutes are on, the low back is on, the abs are off. Okay, and when she's back here, now my bones are taking the load. My quads are using me a little bit, my hand, they're just using me, but they're not loaded. She stands loaded. So this is during the day, she needs to work herself back here constantly. Okay, so we've got to put that into her system, is to understanding that. So there's the big picture.